Editing can absolutely suck. It can take a lot of time. It's a very tedious craft. However, it's also something where you can turn garbage like this.
Look, if you want to grow on YouTube, let me try that again.
Into something like this. Look, if you want to grow on YouTube, you have to get good at a lot of different things. And in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to edit really good, really fast, and how to actually enjoy it, because if you don't, it is literally like trying to pull teeth out trying to get through an edit for your YouTube video. Because let's be real, everyone watching this video isn't here to become an editor. You're here to learn how to edit your video in a very basic, fast, and enjoyable way in order to get more YouTube content out. With that being said, I left timestamps right below this video if you guys want to skip around or go to any specific part. So without further ado, let's jump into this. Starting with a few housekeeping tips before we even get into editing. The first thing that you really need to understand when editing videos is who you're editing for, the type of content you're editing for. For example, Colin and Samir, if you're going to be editing for one of their videos, then it's going to be slower paced, more conversational, light, maybe like jazz music in the background. But if you're editing for Mr. Beast, the tone completely shifts, right? Are you an entertainment channel? Are you a talking head educational channel? You need to first understand what kind of content you're editing for, because as you build up a library of assets or tools, and as you learn pacing and flow for each different niche within YouTube, there are levels to those things, and those things do change. The other housekeeping tip before we actually jump into how to edit is just fundamentally understanding basic storytelling. It will make your edits 1,000 times better. I think there are really 3 storytelling principles that I like to follow, but because I know this video is going to be filled with a lot of information, I don't want to information overload all of you. So I'm going to share with you my favorite one that I think is most applicable within the editing timeline, and it's A/B plot storytelling. So basically, if you have an A plot story, which is, let's say your video like Mr. Beast, for example, he has a video where he talks about $1 dates versus $500,000 dates. The A plot storyline of that video is it's $1 versus $500,000 dates, and it's all of those dates, right? Basically like experiencing those things, that's the A plot. The B plot of that story, which the editors weave in throughout the A plot, is Jimmy or Mr. Beast's relationship between him and his fiance, which we don't normally get to see in videos very often. And this is really cool because this storytelling tip or fundamental principle, A/B plot storytelling, it's really done in the edit. Like that's why this is probably the most basic, easy to understand one when approaching the edit or approaching all of this from the lens of an editor. Now, those were the only 2 housekeeping tips I really wanted to cover before we actually got into the edit. Now, you're probably wondering which software you should use right now. There are a lot of different softwares out there. There's really beginner-friendly ones like CapCut or Descript AI stuff. But then there are the professional editing softwares, which are actually what I recommend. There's Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and Final Cut Pro. And all of these are industry standard editing softwares. And they're also referred to, maybe you would know them as NLEs or non-linear editing softwares. Now, I highly recommend one of these over any of the things like CapCut or anything like that, because with things like CapCut, you just can't get this certain level of polish that you can achieve in these other more professional softwares. And I know that sounds intimidating, but I personally use Final Cut Pro. It's built by Apple. I'm an Apple fanboy. I have their monitor, I have their computer, I have everything I have is Apple. And I love Apple because they're simple and intuitive and minimalistic. And the way they approach their editing software is exactly the same. So for me, I'm in Final Cut Pro. But keep in mind, no matter what editing software you're in, even if it's CapCut, everything that we're gonna be covering today on how to edit a YouTube video, it can be cross-pollinated, meaning it's applicable to every editing software. And I would know because I have edited in CapCut, DaVinci Resolve, Premiere Pro for years actually, and Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro is my favorite. It's the easiest, fastest to learn, the most intuitive, and it's professional software. And it never has any issues or crashes because it's from Apple. It's very reliable. So you just need to factor in what software you want to choose. DaVinci Resolve is completely free. Final Cut Pro, it's a one-time payment of I think $300, but it's worth every penny. And then you have Premiere Pro, which you have to pay for on a monthly basis. So forget that. Unless you already use the Adobe Cloud, I wouldn't recommend it at all. Once you choose your software, download your software, The next thing that you need to understand when going about editing, and I know it's boring, you could skip ahead to the next part if you want, but I highly recommend you don't because it's really crucial to the whole process. And it's basically file management or file organization. Now, with file management, it's very simple. No matter the editing software you use, you're going to have to create a project. And essentially, you're going to have to find a place or a home for that project to live. Now, what I like to do is I like to use a hard drive. If you go into my Finder window or my file system here, I'm using a MacBook, you could see that I have something called the Extreme Pro. This is an external SSD hard drive, and I like to save my projects on here for two reasons. One, because I don't want to have all kinds of editing projects on my desktop, and two, it basically, this hard drive, when I put it on a hard drive that's an SSD hard drive, this is taking all of the weight or heavy lifting that or power that the editing software is going to take. So it's not going to slow down my MacBook because this SSD hard drive is taking all of that heavy lifting off of the MacBook for me, right? Or off the computer for me. So I highly recommend getting one of these. If you don't, just go to your desktop and create a new folder. For now, I'm going to go into my hard drive. It's going to be the same process whether you're doing this on your desktop or in a hard drive. First thing you're going to want to do is just right click and open a new folder, create a new folder, and call it YouTube Videos, okay? And then you're gonna double click into that folder, and this is where you're gonna create new folders for every video you create. So let's say I'm creating a video and it's about hooks. So I'll come over to click New Folder and create a new folder, and I'll just name this folder the name of this YouTube video. I'm going to call it the 7-second secret for viral hooks. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click into here and I'm going to create a few more folders. So when we're filming, there are a few different things. One is something called AROLL. Now what you're watching right now is AROLL. It's basically just the video file of you talking to the camera. That's considered AROLL. So I'm going to create a new folder called AROLL where I'm going to put that video file. I'm also going to create a new folder called BROLL. And B-roll is basically any supplementary footage that you put on top of your A-roll in order to show, not tell. This will make a lot more sense when I actually show you how to do this in the editing software. So if you don't understand, just accept that you don't understand because we will go over it in a second and just continue to follow the steps here of creating a folder. The next thing you're going to want to do is create a music folder and then a projects folder. And then finally, a new folder saying exports. So this is like the minimum of what you need. So right now, this projects folder is where we're going to actually save our editing software's project so we could stay organized. The music's where we're going to put all of our music. The export is where we're going to send our final or save our final video to that folder. B-roll is where we put any B-roll that we may have shot or any stock footage or anything like that. And A-roll is the video that we filmed straight out of camera. Okay, so this is really all you need to get started. And this system here will keep you organized, and you'll be so happy that you did organize everything because I've run into several different situations where I wasn't organized and it literally made the project like 2 hours, 3 hours longer because of it. Now, once you do this, all you need to do is actually go to your editing software application down on your dock bar, or if you're on, which I think it should be the same thing if you guys are on Windows, and just click on the editing software of choice. For me, Final Cut Pro. Now with other editing softwares, it will ask you where you want to save the project to, but with Final Cut Pro, first it opens the project and automatically saves it to your movie folders. So if you go over to your movie folders, you'll see that it saved this project automatically. All we need to do is take this project, drag and drop it into our projects folder here, into where we have the rest of our projects saved. Then what you're going to want to do is just close the project and reopen it. Now with Final Cut Pro, the file organization is a little bit weird. They call their projects libraries, they call their bins events, and they call their timelines projects. This is very confusing, but basically just follow my lead here. All you need to do is come up here to where it says untitled. You can right click and select rename, or you can just double click it and then it will allow you to rename it. You're going to want to name this library, i.e. this project, the same name that you named it when you created your folders inside of your Finder. So for me, this was the 7-second secret for viral hooks. Now I'm going to highlight all of this, copy it, and then I'm going to go down here to create a new project, and I'm going to go project name, and I'm going to Command V so I don't have to retype it. and I'm gonna name it the exact same thing, the 7-second secret for viral hooks. Keep in event, you could just leave that as is. You ideally want to be editing in 4K. I like to have the resolution at 3840 over 2160 for the highest resolution. And the frame rate, I have it at 23.98 frames per second. I keep this at Apple ProRes 422. By the way, this is what yours will probably look like. All you need to do to see all of the settings is click on Use Custom Settings, and then basically just leave everything else as you see it here and click OK. And then you'll see that our timeline's created. Now up here, Smart Collections, we don't need this. So just right click and come down to Delete Folder. This right here is called an event. And this, think of this as like bins, where you're going to have separate bins. So the same way you see here, we have different bins or folders. That's how you're gonna wanna think of these events in Final Cut Pro. So I'm gonna double click to rename, and I'm basically going to rename this AROLL, the same way I have in my hard drive. And I see in my hard drive, I have B-roll and music. So I'm gonna right click, click New Event, and call this B-roll. And then right click New Event, Music. So now I'm gonna actually go get my video file, my AROLL, and I'm gonna drag and drop it into Final Cut Pro. Now there's two ways you could do it. You could find it in your folder and just drag and drop it inside of Final Cut Pro, or you can, inside of Final Cut Pro, you can come over to the folder that you want to import media to, right click and go down to Import Media. And then you can go in, try to find where you have it saved. So for me, I know that I have all of my files saved on my hard drive. So I'm going to go into here, I'm going to go into my YouTube videos folder, I'm going to go into my video that we talked about, and I'm going to go into my AROLL folder. And then there is where I saved my video and my audio file that goes with my video. So I'm just going to select both of those and click, make sure that over here on the right side, guys, it's probably gonna say copy to library. Do not do that. Make sure you select leave files in place, okay? That's all you need to do, and then click import all. So now you'll see if you click on the folder AROLL, all of your AROLL is in here. If you click on B-roll, it doesn't show up anymore because these are different bins or folders, right? So we want to import our B-roll into B-roll, our music into music, our AROLL into AROLL. This is how we organize inside of Final Cut Pro. Now, if you don't like this, where you can see it from a clip view, you can just come over here to this little icon, click on this, and it will display between a film strip style or a file system style. So now you see the files alone, but if you click on this again, it'll show it like a film strip, right? So I personally like this view better. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna now simply drag and drop each one down to my timeline. So I'm gonna drag and drop my AROLL, and I'm going to drag and drop my audio. Now my video looks very gray and muted, like all the colors are taken out of it, but I'll explain that in a little bit. Now, for you, you might need to actually align your audio because your audio file may not be aligned with your video file as you see here. But if we zoom in, you can see these little things right here. Let me make this bigger. These right here, all of these crazy waveforms, these are called waveforms, or all these crazy like lines or mountains. These are called waveforms. This is your audio. So what we can do is we can actually line this up in order to get our audio synced with our video. So you could see what I'm doing to line it up is I'm just looking at the waveforms. I see, oh, okay, these look very similar. It's like putting a puzzle together. And I'm just dragging and dropping, and then I'm gonna press play and see if they're aligned well together.
Look, if you want to grow on YouTube.
Okay, perfect, so they are. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm just going to hover over this line and then bring it all the way down so that my audio no longer plays from my actual video, my camera clip, my AROLL clip. And now the only audio file that's gonna be playing is my microphone. So now it's gonna sound like pretty good. Cool. So now we have our video and our audio file lined up and synced together. So that's good. Now a little overview of Final Cut Pro. This top left side is where you'll have your files. Right here, as you could tell, is where you'll have your preview of your video. Over here on the right side is where you'll have your video settings or parameters, so you can resize it, add effects, that kind of stuff. You have your color tab where you can color grade. You have your volume tab where you can affect volume. And you have an information tab, which you don't need. On the timeline itself, we have a few different things. So over here, this very, very right side, we have this icon, which is how we can access our effects. And inside here, we have all of our transition effects. Now this other tab right here, this other icon is our actual video effects. So all of our video effects, and there are a lot, especially if you use something like MotionVFX, which I'll put in the link in the description below. It's by far the plugin that you cannot use Final Cut Pro to a level of a professional without MotionVFX. I genuinely mean that. So I'll put a link below to them so you guys can join that. That being said, over here, right here, we have this next icon. This is where you can either zoom in and out manually, or you can also affect how you want your timeline clips or how you want your clips to look in the timeline, right? You can affect the size and just see what you prefer aesthetically, like what aesthetic. Really, this is just preference. Right here is you can basically resize the film strip that Final Cut Pro shows. The entire layout of Final Cut Pro. It's extremely simple. Now, the next thing that we're going to want to do is actually just start cutting our footage. Yeah. So what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to, first of all, I can see that I really start talking here when I'm looking at the waveforms. So I can just cut this and then delete everything before it. And there's a couple ways to do this. First, you can come to this icon right here, and then you can come down to the blade tool and then go ahead and you can cut the audio file and the video file. Then you can come back here and click the select tool, highlight everything before it, and then click backspace or your delete key, and it'll delete that. Alternatively, what you can do is actually just use something called keyboard shortcuts. So if you click on your keyboard, the key B, it's going to automatically activate the blade tool. And then I can go ahead and blade the audio and make a cut or blade in the video. And then I can click a keyboard shortcut A to get back to my cursor tool. And then I can highlight everything before it and click delete or backspace. So I'm basically going to now go ahead and play through and see if this is a mistake.
Look, if you want to grow on YouTube, let me try that again.
So I messed up.
Look, if you want to grow on YouTube,
I messed up again.
Look, if you want to grow on YouTube, you have to get good.
Okay, so this is a good take. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the playhead back to the beginning of this clip by looking at the audio waveform. Going to click B and blade tool, all of that. Click A to get back to my cursor tool. And then I'm just going to highlight and delete everything before that. Now the video is going to start right where I want it to, the take, right? Okay, so I have a big space here. And I basically, it brings us into pacing and flow. So one thing that I want to do here is I want to basically tighten the edit up or make it faster. And I can do that by getting rid of a lot of these empty spaces here. So what I'm going to do is zoom in a little bit. I'm just going to make a cut here, 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 and here. And I'm just going to delete all of that empty space. It's going to automatically bring all of these clips together. Now I want to show you guys a really, really important cutting technique. It's called J and L cuts. Essentially, it's where you have your audio. Normally, when you have a cut, it's basically just one straight cut like you see here, right? And the problem with that is your video will look very jarring or it'll feel very aggressive. Like it'll distract people from the value you're trying to give because they'll be distracted with how aggressive your editing cuts are. Watch when I play this.
The importance of are there hooks. In fact,
right, those are very aggressive cuts. So J and L cuts is an editing technique where you can simply make your audio of this clip. So imagine I have this cut right here, right? What I would want to do is I would want the audio of this clip right here to start playing before the actual clip does. What this does is it cues your brain to subconsciously prepare for a cut or for the next talking point without ever registering the cut. So what I simply do is I go over to this clip and I drag it to the right. And you see I keep doing it to about right here where the audio is going to now play before the clip. And you can see that it makes the shape of a J, which is why it's called a J cut. And when you do this, the audio is going to play just a couple frames before the actual video shows. And this is going to cue the mind to get ready for a cut. Now, an L cut is basically the exact opposite. So an L cut is if I do the clip before and I just drag and drop the clip the opposite way so that the audio continues to play after the video disappears. And you can see this makes a shape of an L. This is how you know if you have an L or J cut because the clips will make a shape of either an L or a J. Now, what I like to do is actually both. So I'll drag and drop this just a couple frames past the audio, And then I'll drag and drop this one a few frames back. So I have an L cut and a J cut. And I'll do the same thing here. Right? So I have an L cut here, a mini L cut, and I have a J cut. And watch how much smoother this looks.
Overlook the importance of are there hooks. In fact,
Right? It's much smoother, but we can make it even smoother through something called this isn't technically called a jump cut within the world of editing. You can call it maybe a zoom in or a punch in, whatever you want to call it. But what I would like to do here is just zoom my frame in. You see this a lot on YouTube. So I would want to, this part where I say, are there hooks? The part where I say that line of dialogue, I'm just going to select that clip. I'm going to go over up here to the top right of Final Cut Pro, and I'm going to make sure I'm in this. I'm going to click on this film strip up here to make sure I'm in the transform settings. And under transform, I can control the scale, so I can zoom in and out. I can control the position, so I go left, right, or up and down. And by the way, if you mess this up and you want to go back to the original position, all you need to do is click these arrows right here and say reset parameter, reset parameter. Great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in on this clip, and I'm just going to move the position a little bit. And also, if you want to just be able to freeform move around, all you need to do is come over to this icon over here to the bottom left side of your preview viewer, click on that, and now you can just move around your clip however you want, right? And then just make sure that when you're done doing that, you just click done up here. And then watch what you have now.
Are there hooks? In fact,
right? This is a little bit too aggressive, but it was really just trying to prove my point here. But this is probably how I would go about this specific cut, right? This plays out much better than the original version. Now, one thing that I want to talk about when doing zoom ins like this, you need to pay attention to something called eye tracing, okay? And it's essentially where look at where my eyes are here. If I zoom in, you notice how I match my eyes at the same spot. So what a lot of people do is they'll zoom in on a clip, but they'll move it, they'll center it like this. But watch what happens. If when I move my eyes, basically like if my eyes are here and I come over here and my eyes are in a different place, it's going to look very, very jarring. So if I like place this, like most people would do, watch this.
Are there hooks? In fact,
right? It's very, very jarring. Versus, let me go back to how I had it. What I did here is I saw that my eyes are roughly in this upper area right here. So I'm going to make sure when I zoom in, my eyes stay in this upper area. So it feels very cohesive.
Are there hooks? In fact,
right? Way less distracting, way more impactful. One rule with editing, guys, if your cuts or anything distracts from the value you're giving and your edits are not invisible, you did not edit right. The best editing is invisible. It should be so good that nothing distracts the person from the video. No editing should be distracting people where they should basically turn their attention to the edit. Then you're kind of losing the whole point. Cool. So basically what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm just going to go through and I'm going to cut the rest of this entire video. I want you guys to pause this video right now and just go ahead and finish cutting the rest of your video. So watching through, looking for mistakes, seeing empty areas like here, great, I'm going to cut that. I'm going to come over here, I'm going to make a cut, and I'm going to delete that empty space, and I'm going to do a J and L cut in order to make this feel seamless. So just go ahead throughout the rest of your edit and do that right now. Okay, now what I'm going to do, and please don't be overwhelmed because there's going to be a lot going on right here. I'm going to open up a project that I've actually already finished editing because in order for me to explain this next point, I need to show you a project where I've already done this. So I'm going to open up my past YouTube video project. And when we go inside of here, it'll look a little bit intimidating and a little bit crazy, but don't worry about it. What I want to talk about right now, in fact, let me just deactivate everything except what I want to show you. Okay, great. So I deactivated everything that might feel overwhelming. Right here, all you see is basically my final AROLL finished and cut. So I went through and I added a bunch of J and L cuts. This is what it looks like. But what I do next is I actually color code it. So every single video has natural segments, right? Imagine like in a YouTube video, tip 1, tip 2, tip 3. Those are different segments of the video. Well, what I really like to do is focus on the psychology of content and how to basically re-cue or re-trigger people's attention. And you'll notice I'm going to reactivate all my music tracks. So everything in green right here is my music that I'm reactivating. And if you notice, I have a new piece of music or a new song for every single different color. Why? I do this because I want every single natural segment of the video to have its own song to re-cue or re-engage the viewer. Now, if we go back to color coding for a second, every single color you see here is a different segment of the video. This first part in orange, this is the intro. This next part in red, this is my call to action. This next part in purple, it's point 1. This next part in turquoise, this next part in turquoise is point 2. This part in green, point 3, orange, point 4, so on and so on, right? So what you need to do now is I want you to watch through your entire video. You can even do it at 2x the speed. And I want you to look for natural segments. Now, I'm going to go back to the project really quickly to show you how you can color code. What you're going to want to do when you're back in your project that you're editing, you're going to want to come over to Index. You're going to want to come down to Edit Rolls. And where it says Audio Rolls, just click Add Roll a bunch of times. You don't need to name them. Just add a bunch of rolls, okay? Then you're going to click Apply. And then what you can do now is, let's say that this is your intro. You just highlight the clips that are an intro, you right-click it, and you assign audio rolls, and then you can choose whatever color you want. So let's say I want to make it like a blood orange, okay? Now let's say that this is like a natural segment or the first point or tip of my video. After my intro, I'll right-click, go to assign audio rolls, and I'll make it turquoise, right? And then what I'll do, let's say point 2, this is the second point of the video. I'm going to highlight it, right click, assign rolls, and I'm going to make it red, right? Or pink or whatever. The reason that we do this is so that we know how many songs we need to add and where we need to add those songs. So now I know, okay, I need 1, 2, 3. I need at least 3 songs, and I need song 1 to play during this part, song 2 to play during this part, and song 3 to play during this part. This one trick will help you be a better editor than most actual editors who do this for a living. So go back to, if we were going back to my project, you'll see I have all of my entire timeline or my whole project segmented into its different parts by colors, and each color has its own song to it, right? Its own musical track. And I do this to re-engage the viewer. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do when you have your AROLL edited is you're going to want to edit BROLL. If I go back to my project that's already finished, I'm going to reactivate everything so we can see it. And I'm going to play the first few seconds of this video, and you'll be able to see me using B-roll. Basically, B-roll is any supplementary footage of myself or of footage that I shot that goes with what I'm saying.
Look, if you want to grow on YouTube, you have to get good at a lot of different things.
Right? These clips that I use right here, that's B-roll. This is supplementary footage that I recorded separate from the video. Or watch this clip right here.
Only subject that to the fact that, well, writing hooks can be hard and sometimes even really time consuming.
Right? So the idea is to add supplementary footage or B-roll to your video that helps tell what you're saying or helps show what you're saying instead of just telling. Basic storytelling principle, show, don't tell. We want to show. So I'm talking about writing hooks. I have this clip here of me typing on my keyboard, i.e. writing, and I have this clip here of me looking like I'm in deep focus. By the way, this is where the art of editing comes in. These two clips were shot like 6 months apart. These were not shot for this video. I shoot B-roll all the time whenever I'm working or doing anything. I just have my camera recording so that I can have B-roll and build up what I call my B-roll library. Like if we go into my hard drive and I go into my assets inside of B-roll, you could see that I have B-roll I've been collecting for years of me working. It's a bunch of B-roll, my daily life of me just doing things, client proof. I have B-roll of, again, more everyday life stuff with the family. I have B-roll of me on my last trip to New York. I have B-roll of me editing. I have B-roll of me collaborating with other creators. I have B-roll of my entire journey from when I was like first started in business to now. And I have it all basically organized in folders. This is something you're going to have to build up over time. But when you do, you can create cool, I bet you thought that this clip and this clip was shot specifically for that part of the video, but it wasn't. Neither of these were shot for this video, and both of these were shot like 6 months apart from each other. But I was like, okay, where in my B-roll, my huge full B-roll library, do I have any clips that could help show, not tell what I'm saying? And then I came up with this.
I can see people skip them all together, and I can only subject that to the fact that, well, writing hooks can be hard and sometimes even really time consuming, which is exactly
right. And then it flows really well and it re-engages you constantly. So I'm using a lot of B-roll throughout this entire video. I'm literally using like just as much B-roll as I can. So what you're going to want to do is it's very simple. All you're going to want to do now is if you do have any B-roll that you either shot specifically for this video or that you have in a library, you're going to want to grab all that footage and you're going to want to just drag and drop it into Final Cut Pro. So I just uploaded all of mine and you could see that it created subfolders. These are called keyword collections, basically. It's a fancy way of Apple calling them subfolders. So it's basically like if I drag and drop folders with files inside of it, inside of a folder I created in Final Cut Pro, it'll create subfolders. So basically I have my main folder B-roll and I have subfolders with other assets inside of each of those, okay? So now I have all my B-roll in here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna watch back the video and just think, okay, where would be a good spot to add some B-roll here, right? And I'm just gonna press play.
Look, if you wanna grow on YouTube.
Right, like right there, if you wanna grow on YouTube, I might want to show one of my analytical graphs of me growing on YouTube, or
you have to get good at a lot of different things.
Or you have to get good at a lot of different things. I know that like one of the things you need to get good at is editing. So maybe I'll go over to my editing folder, right? And then I'll click and then I'll come over to this film strip tab so that I could see it from a film view. And I'll just see, okay, what cool B-roll do I have here? I was like, oh, this is cool. This is me on a computer screen. Let me see. But maybe that doesn't get the point across. What can I do here? Do I have any videos of me actually editing? So here's one. I have one of me looking like I'm focused, right? I like this. So maybe I'll do this. I'll click. And by the way, if I have a whole clip like this and I only want to take a small piece of it, I will come over to the part I want to start. I'll click I on my keyboard for an in point and I'll press play. And let's say I wanted to stop the clip there. I'll click O on my keyboard to create an out point. And now all I need to do is select that part that I selected. And then I can drag and drop it here. And let's see if I have, let me see. Okay, here we go. This is of my editing timeline here. So we can use this. So I'll start it here. I for endpoint, press play. I'll start it here. And then pause it. O for out point, and I'll drag and drop this in. So maybe what I'll do is something like this.
You have to get good at a lot of.
Maybe I'll start it here. And basically I want to fit, now I just am like, okay, I want to fit these two clips in this part of the dialogue right here, right? So maybe I'll just cut it off a little bit and I will do this. And then what do we have? We have it, let's watch it back.
We're on YouTube. You have to get good at a lot of different things. But one,
right? That's awesome. Feels really good. And this is basically the whole premise of B-roll. You just want to add supplementary footage wherever you can. Alternatively, if you don't have any footage that you shot yourself or footage that you can use from a long time ago, what you can do is you can go get stock footage. So they have sponsored this channel before, Artlist, but they are not sponsoring this video. But I just genuinely, I only take sponsors on that of products that I actually use, which is why I'm recommending them on a video that's not even sponsored. But if you go to something like Artlist, you can come over. They have really cool AI tools. In fact, I've made a whole video about Artlist. This is where I get all my music and sound effects, by the way, guys. But again, this is where you have an option for footage. And basically you can come here and just download stock footage. So if you're looking for, like, let's say you're talking about New York City, you could type in New York. And what I love about Artlist is it's like literally looks like cinema quality. Like it looks so good. It doesn't look like cheesy stock footage that you're used to. Like it's really good quality, right? And then you could just download it here. So I highly recommend that. Like they literally pay me to do sponsored videos and I literally just gave them a free plug because I actually use them. They're really good. So I would recommend that. If you guys don't have any B-roll and you want to add B-roll, you could always use stock footage or supplementary footage from other third-party tools. And on that topic, this is where you can also get music. So I come here for music oftentimes. You can also go to other third-party tools that are out there. I've just always used Artlist. And basically you can come down and you can go to their homepage, or you can connect your channel in settings and it will it'll basically give you a list of songs that it thinks is best for your channel. They have this new feature where you could click check trends, and basically you can like paste any YouTube or Spotify or TikTok link, and it will give you songs that are very similar to that famous song so that you could use a song similar to that, which is really cool. Man, I need to reach out to Artlist and let them know I'm talking so much gold about them so they could sponsor this video, actually. So let's say that we like a music clip. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come over to download, and it's the same thing in any of these different royalty-free music platforms that are out there. You download it, it'll download it to your computer. Then what you want to do is you want to go to your files, and you want to basically just drag and drop that music clip into the music folder that you created. And then what you can do inside of Final Cut Pro is go to your music bin here, right click, click import media, and you can go get that song. Or alternatively, you can just drag and drop it into Final Cut Pro. And then when you do, the music will come up like this. Now, when we are talking about music within editing, like I said, we really want to have a new song for every single segment of the video or natural section, which we've already color coded, okay? And this is going to elevate your edits by like 30 million %. And right now what I'm gonna do is I'm literally just going to play through the songs, the two that I have here, and I'm gonna see which one I like best. Okay, that one's cool. Ooh, I like that beat drop later on in the song. Sometimes I'll do this. Sometimes I never just listen to the first part of a song. I always listen to every different part of the song. And what I'm gonna do here is click I for endpoint, and I'm gonna drag and drop this in and see what I can do with this. So by the way, if you don't want your music as the top layer and you try to drag it down, it'll just go right back into place. If you want your music to sit down like at the very bottom of all your audio tracks, but it keeps doing this, just go over to index, go over to your rolls right here, and just select music and drag it to the bottom. Okay, and now your music will be the very bottom layer.
If you want to go on YouTube, you have to get good at a lot of different things.
Ooh, I like this a lot. So what I'm gonna do is right here where I say, but one thing, I'm going to have this beat drop. So as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm lining up by the waveforms. I see that the beat drops right here and my dialogue starts right here. So I'm gonna line those two up. I'm going to just click on the music layer. I'm gonna come up to the top right where volume is, and I'm just gonna turn this down to about -13 and just see how that feels. Now what I'm gonna do is drag this musical track all the way to the left here. And when you zoom in, you'll see that you have this little circle icon right here that you can actually grab and drag to the right to fade your audio in, okay? So now when we play this back, let's see how this sounds.
Look, if you want to grow on YouTube, you have to get good at a lot of different things. But one thing I see many people overlook.
Yeah, this is good. I like this a lot. Alternatively, we could even have the beat drop where I say the hook. So let's try it. Let's see how that feels.
Importance of are there hooks. In fact, I'm even...
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. I like that even better. So I'm going to actually use this whole part, and I'm going to make this a little less loud. I'm going to maybe bring it down to like -15 dBs. Now, okay, so you see the song continues onto our other segments that we color coded. So how do we actually only make the song for this color code or this segment of the video? Well, you could do one of two things. One, you could do the beginner lazy route, which is where you basically just cut it off and then you just fade it out like this, right? But when you listen back to that, look how horrible this sounds.
Skip them all together, and I can only in fact.
It's beginner. It's horrible. I hate it. So instead, what we want to do is we want to undo that. And what we're going to do is we are going to come to the end of our segment here, the orange segment, which is our intro. And I'm going to make a cut in the audio, and I'm going to delete the part to the right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my arrow keys. I'm going to click my left arrow key one time. And then what I'm going to do is make sure that my music track is highlighted and click Shift H. And what's going to happen when you click Shift H is it's going to extend or hold out your music track. Now what you're gonna wanna do is come over to Cathedral. So you're gonna come over to the Effects tab, type in Cathedral. Right here, it's Cathedral 2. and you're gonna wanna drag and drop this on top of your music clip. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the arrow key. I'm going to make sure that my musical track is selected. I'm going to go to the left arrow key. I'm going to click the left arrow key one time to go back one frame. I'm then going to come up to Cathedral. I'm going to turn it all the way down. And this is very important. This effect will not work if you don't do this next part. Come over to this keyframe right here, this keyframe that you see, this diamond-shaped thing. Click on that. Then what you're going to want to do is make sure you select your musical track again so that it's highlighted. And then you're going to click your right arrow key one time to go forward one frame. Then you are going to drag this slider all the way to the right under Cathedral, okay? And then what's going to happen is your audio or your music file will now echo out. And it's going to feel like it was literally composed to end the way you ended it. In fact, I'm just going to mute my audio file so that you could really hear this. Right? It echoes out, and it gives this effect that the song is supposed to end there. And it's these small details, these small little details that make your edits feel way more polished and attract attention and get your average view duration percent way higher. I know I never shut up about Stephen Bartlett and his book, The Diary of a CEO, but it's my favorite book ever. I've read a lot of books. It's my favorite one. And there's a line in here that I think is really good for people when editing videos on YouTube. It's the easiest way to do big things is by focusing on the small things. He says that right here. Meaning, focus on the small things, like echoing out your musical track instead of just cutting it off abruptly, right? It's these little things that will help your videos just be more polished and level up in quality. So this is kind of like my theory or how I go about editing music. Now, one last thing you guys are going to want to learn how to do is color grade. So for example, you will notice that my video here looks gray. And this is because I shot in something called log. It's a profile setting on your camera, which basically, it's the equivalent of shooting a photo in RAW. It basically takes the color out so that when you put it back in, you have more dynamic range. So for example, if I shot this clip that you're looking at on screen right now in a normal color profile that all of us would be used to seeing a video in, what's gonna happen is if I bring the saturation up, I can only bring it up so much before it starts to get grainy and fall apart and the image starts to compress. When I shoot a video inside of a format called log, it's like the video equivalent of shooting raw photos. What happens is when I want to make this really saturated or add a certain color, I can push it a lot further without the image falling apart, getting grainy or compressing. Now, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is bring back the color if you're shooting on this, but most of you, for 99% of you guys watching this, you will not be shooting in log profile. Okay, so what I just did right now, because I already know for 99% of you, you're not gonna be shooting in a log profile, but basically I brought in what's called a conversion LUT that basically brings all of the color back into the image. So now, now that my video probably looks how yours looks, what we're gonna do to color grade is just make sure the clip is selected, go over to the color tab, and you could do one of two things. You can use Final Cut's brand new AI light or color grading feature, which if you click on this, it's actually not that bad. Like, it's not that bad. So what you could do is you can click on this and then you could just fix what you don't like. Like, for example, right now this feels too saturated, so I'm gonna turn this down, the saturation down a little bit. I'm going to turn, I think the brightness is good. And basically when color grading, all you wanna do is be extremely subtle. Don't crank anything up too high or too low. Just be very subtle. And what you're gonna wanna do is just change these sliders based off of what you think looks best, because every single image based off of the lighting and the camera settings, it's gonna be color graded a little bit different. So for me, I like to bring my highlights up a little bit. I like to bring the blacks up a little bit because I like more being seen in frame. I don't like it to be super saturated. I don't like it to be super warm. And yeah, like honestly, I'm pretty happy with this. So this is the before and this is the after. Like I did that in 30 seconds. So you should do this for your video as well. And really, that's all you guys need for like the minimum viable edit. You need to just cut your AROLL. You need to color code it. You need to add BROLL. And then you need to add music. Like, you don't really need sound effects or all these extra crazy things. This is like the minimum you need to make a good video. And when we go over to my finished project, we see that I just have a lot of exactly what I'm talking about, right? I have my AROLL is cut, my main footage, I cut it. I used J and L cuts to cut it. I had jump cuts, zoom ins throughout. I color coded the different natural sections of the video. And then underneath each one, I gave it its own music or its own song. And then I just added a lot of B-roll that went with what I was saying to show, not tell throughout the entire video. It's very simple when you break it down, and it's not that hard to do. I mean, you saw, I really just like, you know all the techniques right now. Like, you know how to technically do it. The only problem that stops people from actually doing this and creating good edits is the amount of time that it does sometimes, unfortunately, take. And this is basically it, guys. This is how you can edit a really basic but yet polished, professional-looking video for your YouTube inside of Final Cut Pro. And everything we talked about, it can be applied to literally any other editing software out there. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any other questions or anything was unclear, let me know in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to make a version 2 of this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.